Hey neighbors, and welcome back to the Curls and Commentary channel, babes. It's wash day and the girl is really excited. I always tell you guys, I be bragging on God about how I'm just so blessed to have untapped creativity through the Lord, and this video is no different, y'all. You saw the title. The Holy Spirit gave me this idea to do twist and testimony and tell you guys about my journey to Jesus Christ, how I found the Lord, even though he found me first. If you know, you know. And yeah, I figured we could just chat while I do my hair. So let me go ahead, take my shower, have my wash day moment, and I'll be back for us to get to styling and talking through my testimony. Hey y'all, your girl is showered, the hair is clean, and I am ready to get into the twists of it all, okay? I do have some notes as I go through my testimony so that I don't lose my train of thought. And as a little heads up, my man is watching some sports, and if it gets a little loud, I'm gonna transition to voiceover, okay? We listen and we don't judge, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. First and foremost, let's talk early childhood. So when I was born, my parents were not together, and they had at that point tried it, and it just was not working. Fun fact, my grandparents, all four of them went to the same high school and they all knew each other. So my grandmothers became friends in their early 20s, and that means my mom and dad actually knew each other, like from very, very young, because their moms were friends, and my parents are each other's parents' godchildren. So they was in the thick of it, all right? Very connected, and my grandmothers were friends, so much so to the point that my my maternal grandmother got pregnant with my mom, and my paternal grandmother was like, you don't want to be pregnant alone, girl, no problem. And my paternal grandmother went and got pregnant. And so I have my dad, of course, but he has a sister who is like a month and a half younger than my mom. So they was really friends. Anyway, this doesn't really have anything to do with my testimony, but it's just a very interesting fact that they were like that close. So anyway, parents were never married, and neither of them were like really religious like that. Like, I think both of them believed in a higher power and believed in God, but they didn't live a lifestyle that like reflected that, really, I guess, as far as having like a specific faith or anything. When it comes to kind of like what the household was like, because my parents were separated, I lived with my mom, and that was pretty cool. My dad was present, you know, in my life and was very much so around. I would like go to see my dad like every weekend and spend the weekend with him. And it was like two different worlds, you know what I mean? My dad was very like nurturing and funny and silly. He had a serious side, but my mom was more of like the stern one and a bit more serious. Like, we had a lot of fun together, but my mom was like more serious and kind of like chill, I guess. So I remember as a kid always having this tension, because my mom and I were like besties, right? Like, I was like my mom's little best friend. And I remember there just being this tension because I would go to see my dad and I would have so much fun with my dad and just love it and just really feel rested and everything. And I would cry in the car on the way back because I wouldn't want to leave my dad. And my dad would be like, well, you don't have to leave, you can stay, you know, you can come stay with me if you want. And I would just be like, but who's gonna take care of mommy? Like, I remember being in the back seat, my dad's playing Jill Scott, and I would just be having this internal conflict. I recognized as a kid, this isn't right. Like, it's not right that I am not with both of my parents. So that was something that I recognized, like I said, at a young age. And it was just something that was like a burden on me, especially because, you know, I loved my mom so much, but I also loved my dad so much. And I just felt like I didn't have both of them equally. So basically, as I grew up a little bit in early childhood, my parents did try to get back together, try to work it out, and I was actually the one that was like, this is not healthy. Like, I was young and I was like, this ain't gonna work, because y'all are like terrible with each other. And so I was the one at like 6 or 7 who like had the final say, like, y'all shouldn't be together because I'm not happy, y'all aren't happy. And it was just so funny because thinking back to how young I was and I was talking to my parents like that, it just goes to show how much I guess I was exposed to as a kid. And I think that has a lot to do with like what I mentioned around like my mom and I being besties. Y'all, my mom and I had a very much so friendship. Like, my mom was an exotic dancer. If you're not familiar with what that is, she was a stripper. And she worked nights, so that way she could have time with me when I came home from school, and we could like bond and go places and do stuff. And while I was asleep, she would go to work, and that way, you know, she wouldn't have to miss out on time with me and stuff, and she could help me with projects and stuff like that. And so as a kid, I was very much so a part of running the household. Like, I knew how much bills were. I knew how much toys were, you know. Like, there's a joke my mom and I used to have because it was one Christmas and I wanted something, and my mom was like, well, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to afford that, blah blah blah. And I was like, that's like 1 or 2 lap dances, you can make it happen. And it was just like, as obviously I look back as an adult, like, dang, that was crazy, but like, I was exposed to the real, you know. Like, Christmas time came around and my mom came home and was like, let me be very clear, Santa is not a fat white man flying in the sky. Santa is 5'5" with a wig on, about to take her makeup off. So if you want something, you need to ask me. You're not gonna be going and writing letters to Santa. So it was like, my mom was gangsta, and that was just the thing, you know. This is kind of like a little fun fact as well. Years later, I wound up getting a math degree, but I used to count money with my mom when she'd come home from work. And that was how I got my numbers. And like, I was really good at numbers and calculating things. And I was like 6 years old counting money from when she came home from the club. And so it's just so funny to think like, that was my childhood. It was normal. And of course, growing up, people were like, oh, you're so mature for your age and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, y'all don't know the half of it. So anyway, kind of early childhood was fun and I enjoyed it. I do remember kind of like at the cusp of like getting a little bit older that my parents got into a really big argument around me being baptized. It was like a big deal. And I never understood what baptized meant. When they were talking about, like, I had asked somebody and they're like, oh, that means like you go down in the water. So I'm thinking like, I had dreams of me being in like a swimming pool and my mom being on one side saying, no, she can't be baptized, and my dad being on the other side. But I'm in the pool confused, just swimming, because I just didn't know what it meant. And so spiritually wise, that was kind of like, you know, my childhood, and not much about, you know, spirituality or anything. Those were kind of like the references. That's early childhood. First little section is done. Let's get into grade school years. Okay, so talking grade school, I remember there being a heavy tension in the house with my mom because my mom had gotten married and my stepdad was like this Italian dude from South Philly, super macho type of guy. And he really like worked with my mom and they took care of everything and made sure that I had everything I wanted. But there was just this sadness, you know, because I was not my mom's only child. I'm third of 5. And a lot of the things that she was doing for me, she wanted to do for my older sisters, but they were estranged because they were from her first marriage, which, you know, ended. And I remember that being a soft spot for her. And I just remember, you know, my mom was working so hard to like basically prove to them, like, I love you, even though we're not together. Like, I love you, I want to see you. Like, we would drive hours and hours, like, to go see them. And it would be like we would drive 6 hours the same day there and back just to take them birthday presents or Christmas presents. And it just never seemed like she got the recognition of being the parent who was trying, kind of thing. And I just remember being burdened by that, feeling like I'm my mom's person, but I can't change anything about that. After seeing my mom work so hard when it came to just literally working nights, she wasn't sleeping, you know, she was taking me places, trying to make sure I had everything. And then seeing kind of like this rejection, I guess, that she was going through with my sisters, it really started to spark in me when I was going into school. When my mom worked really hard, I should work hard too. And so that was honestly the beginning of me like trying to have some level of impact on what happened around the house. And you know, like let me pull my weight, kind of thing. Like I started to feel, I felt responsible for how she felt because I was really the only person in her life who could like make her happy. And then I also felt like, well, maybe if I am like good in school and I do well, that's something that would make her happy too. And so when we moved, and my mom asked me if I wanted to start cheerleading, and I wanted to start cheerleading. So I started cheering. My mom was the coach. And now being on a team where my mom is the coach, you know, and she's running things, and she's still the no nonsense mom I've always known. And I applied the, well, she's working hard, I should work hard too. This was like the beginning of perfectionism for me. And me trying not to give her grief, right? Like me just trying to be good at whatever I can, because I'm like already recognizing, well, she's going through a lot. Like, let me try my best to not make this difficult, you know? And guys, it was really interesting. I felt like there was this monkey on my back. I'm in the 3rd grade, and I feel like I can't get anything wrong on a test or a quiz. I really just felt like I was like, I have to do well. And then the other thing is, I really didn't have many friends, you know? My mom was my best friend, and it became very obvious that, you know, she was just like, well, you need me and I need you, so let's just be close, you know? Like, we'll stay close, we'll always have each other, type of thing. And I really depended on her, and she depended on me, you know? And I remember as a kid, that same exposure that I had as a young person, in grade school, 4th, 5th grade, when she'd have arguments with my stepdad, you know, she would share those things with me, and that burdensome feeling like, okay, well, let me make sure I don't mess anything up because she's already having a hard time with him, you know? Like, I remember being like, what can I control? And I can control getting good grades. I can control not getting like disciplined at school. I can control those things. I don't want to make it anything difficult for her. And so fast forward, toward the end of like, kind of like around the time we moved, I met my now best friend of 24 years. And that was like my first time experiencing someone outside of my mom, like someone outside of my mom who was listening to me, who was funny, you know, like, you know, and don't get me wrong, I had my dad, but like being around someone, we were in the same school, we had some of the same teachers, like it was just like really cool. And of course, as life would have it, I go over to her house one day and she introduces me to porn. So we'll jump back on that later, but I was completely shocked and traumatized. I had no idea what this was. And it's so funny because it's like, yeah, I grew up with my mom being a stripper, and I would be in a strip club after school, you know, doing my homework. But like, I had no clue about porn or sex or that kind of stuff. Like, I knew what a lap dance was, you know what I mean? Like, I know what pole dancing was, but I didn't know what, you know, those more explicit things were. And my parents weren't shy. Like, if I asked them a question, they told me what it was, but it just never came up. And so fast forward, let's talk into middle school years. At this point, I'm doing it all. I'm taking on more and more and more. My parents were very happy and excited about all of my accomplishments. Now, you know, my mom's no longer my coach. I'm starting to cheer for my middle school. And, you know, through the celebration of my, you know, accomplishments, my parents celebrated me differently. So when my dad celebrated me, it would be like a weekend away just to unplug, because he's like, yo, you're doing a lot. You're in all the clubs, you're cheering, you're on varsity in your freshman year, or your first year of middle school, you're on the varsity team. Like, he would take me away. We'd get ice cream, we'd get food. He would kind of just be like, what do you want to do? And I used to go to his house or my grandmother's house and just sleep for 15 hours. And I was like 12. Like, I would just be so exhausted because I did it all. And the way that my mom celebrated me was with public accolades and public admiration. So we would go do something, or I'd get a good grade and she would put it on Facebook. She would be like, June did this, June did this, June did that. You know, my daughter's so great. And I remember at first, you know, I was a little kid, so I'm in middle school. I didn't have Facebook. Like, I didn't really understand the exposure. But then at some point I got a Facebook and I'm seeing these things. You know, I come home with a good grade and my mom would put a picture of my test online, but June got another A, you know. And at first it kind of boosted my confidence, because it was a comfort measure of like, wow, my mom is like, she's pleased with me, you know. I'm not causing her stress. I'm not making things difficult for her. There's other things that are difficult going on, but I'm not one of those things. Like, she never has to worry about me. But I think what happened was I started to realize that I didn't have much wiggle room because if I didn't get a good grade, she didn't post it. You know, if I got a B, it's not that she would be like, why did you get a B? You know, she'd be like, oh, good job. But that wasn't something that was broadcasted. If I was having a hard time with a class and I needed to stay after school, like, even though I got straight A's, if I was having a hard time with a certain topic or I just needed more help, that was not really highlighted, right? What was emphasized was the A's, the perfection, basically. And so I started to feel like, man, like, Mom, I just brought my report card home and you already put it on Facebook. Like, I didn't even really look at it, you know? And I kind of started to feel like celebrated, but a little bit more of that weight and that burden, right? And so as a result of that, and me not knowing what that really felt like, what that meant, feeling a little bit like I'm under a microscope sometimes, I started to deal with really random bouts of rage. And I started to feel like I don't know what to do with these emotions. And I did what my very close friend did. She went to porn. You know, I was 7th grade, 8th grade, stressed about tests and puberty and, you know, trying to keep my parents pleased and all these things. And I literally was in the 8th grade addicted to pornography. You know, got my first laptop and I think I stayed up all night watching porn. And I remember feeling so guilty, but I also remember feeling so relieved. Like, I can just kind of do what I want and nobody's checking on me because I was the kid that nobody needed to worry about, right? My mom had 4 other kids that she was worried about, but I was always the one who never brought her any issues, never brought her any, you know? So nobody ever checked on me. Nobody ever thought twice, you know? My dad never was like, what are you doing? Nobody checked for me. Like, and I think I wound up using that to an advantage. And of course, I started getting better at cheerleading and I started to really feel this perfectionism pull. Like, I have to do well. I have to keep going. I have to continue. Like, there's no like, failure's not an option type of thing. And so I got really good at cheer in a very short period of time. And I started doing all-star level cheer. And if you know anything about that, all-star level cheer is a competitive sport. It's very expensive and it's all year round. And there are primary like 5 levels. Now they have like a 6 or open 6, but I went from a level 2 cheerleader to a level 5 cheerleader in like one summer. I was working myself so hard and putting so much of my effort into cheering. And it was something that made my mom so happy because she obviously cheered and she was my coach and everything. and just seeing me even get better was like a big thing. Now, when it comes back to the spiritual piece, right? Obviously, you guys know, at this point, I didn't grow up spiritual. Nobody was really talking about church in the house. So all of these things are happening, and there really wasn't much about church or, you know, the Bible or praying, you know what I mean? Like, we said grace before dinner every night, but I kid you not, I don't even think I ever really knew the words. Like, I didn't even know what they were saying. It was just amen, you know what I mean? Like, and basically throughout middle school years, the only thing I really remember my mom saying every 3-4 months, my mom would be like, I really need to get right with God. I really need to get right with God. And we never really like broke it down. I never knew what that meant. You know what I mean? So it was just like, you need to get good with God. And then after a while she would say it and I'm just like, Mom, okay, well, you keep saying that. Well, what does that even mean? Like, you keep saying you need to get good with God. Like, what does that mean? And it just never really materialized into anything. And then the other thing in middle school that was, you know, a bigger thing was my grandmother, the one that I'll be talking about sometimes when I be saying sometimes she was wearing too much dignité, my paternal grandmother. She was a Bible study teacher at Vacation Bible School, you know, leader or whatever. And she'd be like, come for a summer, just come. The kids are so nice, you know, I think you're gonna really enjoy it. And I always would be like, I don't even know what that is. And I'd see the pictures and the kids looked like they were having a great time, but I just never understood. And I feel like she didn't really explain like what you do there or Vacation Bible School. I don't understand. And I was in a year-round sport. So when grandma was telling me to come for the summer, I'm like, I literally can't. I have no time. The season ends in April. It starts back up in May, 2 weeks later. So I always was kind of like interested, but I also felt like you're not giving me enough information, and you're definitely not giving me enough information for me to stop my sport that I'm very committed to for 3 months. Like, I don't understand. And so fast forward into high school years, and shout out y'all, we are at the halfway point. So hopefully you're just enjoying this chatty video and the transparency of my life and my testimony. So now continued into high school years, same as always, right? My mom was still my best friend, but at this point I'm so busy, I was doing it all, that my mom's not just my best friend. She's my assistant, she's my secretary, you know, she's my biggest fan. She's posting everything about my life on Facebook. And my dad is also my biggest fan, but he's like, you know, when you see the NASCAR drivers and you pull over and you do the pit stop and you just get everything changed, oil change real quick, and they send you off. That was like my dad. I would kind of, okay, get back out there, champ. That was kind of how it was. And, you know, my parents trusted my judgment. So when they asked, hey, do you want to do another season? I'd be like, yeah. When, you know, do you want to do this? I'd be like, yeah, this is what I want to do. Like, they didn't challenge me because they trusted me, and I was so independent. I was like the old soul, right? And so at this point, freshman year of high school, I make the varsity team cheering. So I'm cheering in school for varsity, but then I'm also cheering outside of school. And that perfectionism gets even worse. I'm around a lot more kids. I'm, at this point, most of my life is now very visible because I'm not just, you know, stuff being shared on Facebook, but Instagram starts to kind of be a thing. People are posting, and I'm in a very high visibility sport. Competitive cheerleading, if you've seen it, the girls don't really wear many clothes, their bellies are out. So there was a lot of body image stuff, making sure that you look the part, making sure you're eating right, making sure that you're being able to flip around. And I was a tumbler, so I was having to be able to move and then lift people, throw people, and it was just a lot. Freshman year was just a lot. And I started to feel like as I got into more activities, met people, got into clubs, had my interests, I really felt like my life was on a clock. Every part of my life, I felt like, whoa, this is like the days are flying by. And this is freshman year. Sophomore year, I switched to a new cheer gym that's further away. It's more investment, and I'm starting to feel like, wow, I need even more organization. And my mom, of course, my secretary, she's got all my life on a schedule, you know, like we're traveling. And essentially cheer became a monster. like a monster. Like, I'd literally be in school for 5 days. Friday night or Friday afternoon, I would go to a game because I was on the varsity cheer team. Cheer. My mom would have my clothes packed for the airport. We would fly out on Friday night. She'd pick me up from the game. We'd fly out on Friday night. We'd be in Vegas. We'd be in Denver or whatever. We would be in San Antonio, wherever, for a cheer competition. All weekend, I'd compete, come back home. We land on Sunday afternoon or Sunday night. The next morning, I'm up, having to be at school. And that was my life because it's a year-round sport. So that was my life. And competition season is about 8-9 months. And then you get 3 months of like preparing the new routine. So that was it. Sophomore year, that was the thing, right? I wasn't into boys. I didn't really have many friends. I was just cheering and flying and trying to do well in school. Now, let's talk about junior year, okay? Junior year is the year that I literally felt like I was in a pressure cooker because now I'm a straight A student. I am SGA president for the second time. I was SGA president technically it's the second time in high school, but the third time because I was SGA president in 8th grade in middle school. And then I was SGA president freshman year and sophomore year. So it was junior year. Oh no, I was SGA president sophomore year and now junior year. And I am just trying to manage, okay? And now this time the boys is looking at me. I got my little boyfriend, you know what I mean? I'm really in the thick of it, okay? And I started to feel like there was not only no room for error from me personally, but I felt like there was no room for error from anyone else in my life. Like, I'd come home and my mom would be like, okay, well, what are you doing now? What are you doing now? Like, when's your next test? Like really, like my assistant. Okay, you have this, you have this, you have this. What do we need to do to make it happen? I was not sleeping. Like, I literally would go to school, go to a game or practice, leave that practice or game and go to my other practice, have to come back from practice, be up for 3-4 hours doing homework, and then I would go have a test, blah, 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 do the same thing all over again. I would sleep like 3 hours in high school. Like, it was crazy, y'all. So basically, junior year, like I said, this is when things started to crumble. And if I'm just gonna roll down the list, because I have it here, I got injured on my competitive team and I sprained my PCL on my knee. So that means I couldn't compete, but I still had to be at all the practices because #I'm on a team. My first boyfriend and I broke up. I broke up with him because he was a jerk. And he was very vocal about being upset about that. And he told everybody that he was upset and I did him wrong and all this kind of stuff. Alluded that I cheated on him, whole thing. You know, his feelings was hurt. It makes sense. But I was the private, picture-perfect girl. So somebody blaring out my business, SGA president, you broke up with him and you did this and you said this. I was like, huh? Like, I was like, really, it was high exposure once again. Then I ran for SGA president again, lost the election. And I mean, lost. Like, I didn't even get enough votes to be on the board. Like, I couldn't even be the secretary of treasury. I went from winning the most votes a couple years in a row to not even getting enough votes to be handling money. Okay, completely got voted out. Then I was failing class and I was trying to drop the class because I didn't want it to impact, you know, my ratings and stuff like that. My GPA was really high and they pretty much wouldn't let me fail the class, drop the class. They wouldn't let me do nothing. So pretty much failed that class, took my AP exams, didn't get any 4s. And if you know, you know, a 4 is more standout. A 3 is like average. Everybody gets 3s. Ciao. Princeton University was my dream school. I didn't get any, you know, really standout AP exams. And basically my parents made too much money. My mom and my stepdad made too much money for me to get like financial aid. And they were just like, listen, bro, we're not really trying to have you go into debt. But also, we also don't even want, even if you did go to debt, we can't even allow you to go into that much debt just to go to Princeton. And so that was like a dream that died. My dad was like, go for it. And my mom was like, he's a bum. You know, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not here every day. Why would you go $250,000 into debt? That's stupid. And she was like, you know, money, that doesn't make sense. And it was just true. Like, I loved Princeton. I wanted to go. That was like my dream school, but it just was really quickly showing it's not going to happen. And then, I guess, basically, at this point, I was fighting through my injury after not being able to compete for some time. And I just was like, this is like the biggest competition of the year. Like, let me just try to compete. I fought through it, injured myself more, all for us to lose. We lost, we messed up pretty bad, and I had this anger resurface, and I just went ballistic on the people who messed up. And I showed my tail, okay? In the back, behind the stage. We got points deducted because of my behavior and this anger that was festering. And of course, my coach chewed me out in front of everybody. And I was just like upset because I'm like, I've been perfect for so long. I have all these things going on and I still managed to do my part and y'all couldn't even do your part. And it was very much so like looking down my nose at them. Like, how dare y'all mess up? I literally was injured for 3 months, came back and competed and did perfect. And here y'all go. Like, I was very nasty and mean, very nasty, very mean, very rude. And all of that was just bubbled up from suppression, right? So fast forward, after that, I basically was crumbling under the pressure because it's like I'm dealing with my own issues and now I'm dealing still with my mom's issues, right? She's telling me about her marriage. She's telling me about her stresses. I know how much the mortgage is and how expensive everything is. And I'm just like, aren't y'all married? Like, don't you have a husband to be talking about this with? Like, why am I involved? You know what I mean? Why am I involved? And I just was like, this is ridiculous. I wind up finding out from my mom that there's like infidelity going on in the marriage, that she's not faithful, but she doesn't want me to say anything. Like, I'm her secret keeper type of thing. And I was just like, listen, like, I can't hold anything else in. Like, I need to be able to just focus on myself. And my mom was just like, well, you're all I have. Like, what do you mean you need to focus on yourself? Like, we're close, like, we're besties, you know? And I basically was like, well, because I can't handle anything else, girl, let me just quit cheer. I already was injured, so I said, let me just quit cheer. And that kind of started an issue with my mom and I because that was like what we did together. And she was really upset that I was quitting and not gonna cheer senior year. But junior year, chewed me up and spit me out. I said, girl, I can't do it. It caused a lot of issues between my mom and my dad because my dad was like, she's been doing it for so long. Like, you're upset, like you're the one doing it. If she doesn't want to do it, let it go. And my mom was just like, but this is what she wants. And I'm just like, Mom, actually, I don't think this is what I want. So that was like my mom and I's first big disagreement because I was like, I really don't think I want to do this anymore. Like, my back hurts. So I wound up just cheering like for school senior year, and I was varsity captain, but I didn't cheer outside of school. And yeah, that's pretty much kind of junior year in a nutshell. Senior year is really where things kind of come together, where I got a new boyfriend. Well, end of junior year, I got a new boyfriend, and he was a preacher's kid. And he was like basically me. He was literally me, like, but just the boy version. The perfectionist, very, very sharp and squeaky image. And he played baseball, you know, real all around guy, super popular. And, you know, he was feeling me a little bit. I was feeling him a little bit. And that was like really nice, you know. Summer of junior year, all these things were collapsing, but it was nice to just like somebody, them like me. And, you know, he was a preacher's kid, so he had to be in church every Sunday. And so I was going to church with him. And it's so funny because, you know, at the time, obviously, I wasn't a believer, but I was like, something's not right. Something is not right. Like, I was like, how is he trying to get in my pants, but you're a preacher's kid? Like, aren't you Christian? Like, aren't you not supposed to have sex before marriage? And I wasn't a believer. I didn't grow up Christian. Nobody told me about that. I just knew from being around other people, like, something feels hypocritical here. And I know I'm not even, you know? And his parents were very much so like talking about how he was virtuous and all this kind of stuff, but I'm like, that's not how he was acting at prom. You know what I mean? I'm confused. Like, and I just remember being like, something's not right. So fast forward, he and I break up, and I just was like, I'm not really feeling this. It seems like you're living a double life type of thing. And I wound up just being like, well, you know what? Going into senior year, I'm just gonna focus on myself. I'm not going to, you know, worry about no boys. I'm just gonna keep it chill. My mom and I's relationship was a little rocky because she wanted me to cheer and I didn't. It was just a little tense, then the whole marriage thing. So I'm just like, and you know, I remember just feeling like going to church with that guy, I didn't really feel much. I just remember being confused at his behavior and how I'm like, this doesn't seem representative of what your dad's preaching about. Like, we leave church and you acting real different. Like, I just remember feeling like that's an ick for me. So basically after that, we're going into senior year, and my mom has like a flat tire one day, and she pulls over to the side of the road, and some young guy helps her, and he was like 3 years older than me. My mom brings him to my job and is like, oh my gosh, I met this nice young man who changed my tire. You should let him take you on a date. I said, huh? What? Take me on a date? I was like, I was so confused. I'm like, not you coming up through the drive-thru. Stop being weird. And so, you know, at this point, my mom and I are already beefing. I'm not trying to create issue. I'm trying to just keep the water flat. So fine, he can take me on a date. This guy was just, y'all, okay. But anyway, and I'm just like, Mom, why did you even try to set me up with this guy? And here she go, oh, he's nice, you know, he seems really sweet, a little rough around the edges, but give him a chance. And he was 3 years older than me, so she was just like, he's a little older, you know what I mean? Like, guys take longer to mature. She's doing all this, really laying it on thick. And I'm like, dang, like, you really didn't want to go to Pet Boys that bad? Like, he saved you $60, I guess, huh? And so I wound up just entertaining him more so because of my mom and wanting not to create any issue with her. And turns out, guys, this guy was abusive, really abusive. We were dating. He also was a church kid, and we would literally go to church and same thing. Like, you're trying to get down my pants. You're, you know, hustling and doing different stuff, but we gotta go to church and we gotta be there at a certain time and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, you know, but this time when I had a little pushback, the first dude wasn't, you know, fighting me on it. He was like, you kind of right. The second dude was like trying to raise his hand on me, okay? And I'm not trying to make light of abuse. This is the story, okay? I mean, if you are in a situation like that, absolutely seek help. There is somebody who can help. It's not you know what I mean? Don't allow the shame to weigh you down, because that's what I did. I didn't tell anybody. It was a secret thing, you know what I mean? But he had a really crazy temper, and he just was like really wild. And I remember trying to get out of that situation, being like, Mom, this guy, something's not right, blah, blah, blah. And she just was like, well, lean into it, you know, give him a chance, blah, 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 blah. So of course, I start going to church with him more, and I start seeing more of church culture and everything. And same thing, right? I'm in the church and I'm just like, I'm confused, you know, like, they're telling me I can't wear pants, so now I gotta go out and buy a skirt. People are trying to donate to buy me skirts and stuff, and I'm just like, I don't get it. Like, why can't I wear a skirt? And then they flip to Leviticus and tell me that I can't wear pants. Then they flip to Leviticus and tell me this is why I can't wear pants. I'm just like, okay. You know, there's certain behavior that you had to do, but I'm just like, it was a couple hoes from the high school that I went to school with. I'm like, the hoes is in the church. I'm confused. Now I'm really confused. You know what I mean? It's one thing to just be a little bit. You know what I mean? You out here kind of fast. It's another thing. I didn't know you was in here Sunday morning at the 9 o'clock service. So I'm just like flabbergasted because I'm listening to what the pastor's saying. And I'm like, this is not stacking up. It's not adding up. How people are acting. I know y'all be the ones partying. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of starting to like really, I'm listening, but I'm starting to feel a little bit confused. And then, you know, like obviously I'm in church, so pastor's preaching about not gossiping and like treating people with love, and but then the pastor would be talking about people and I would just be like, wait, huh? Like I remember feeling senior year like there's no way this is it. Like I'm pretty much here so I don't get fined, right? I'm listening to what the pastor got to say because if I don't, I'm gonna have to deal with this man who's trying to put his hands on me. But I was just remembering looking around like I'm confused. Like if this is God's people, y'all aren't doing a very good job. If the Lord is telling y'all to be nice and you being mean, I'm confused. Like it just was a very like 0-1 situation for me. Like the math wasn't mathing. And so fast forward, I said, you know what? I just want to get to know God for myself. So the pastor would preach and he would like go through scriptures or whatever, and I would literally like try to look it up and be like, so I know what he said, but they not acting right, so let me look it up, right? Let me try to get to know God for myself. And that led me down a path of being like, oh, the Bible look a little different than what these people doing in the church. I was like, this is actually like, God actually seems lit. Like I didn't understand a lot of what I was reading, but like some of the main scriptures like John 3:16, or you know what I mean? Like I was like, well, based off of that, God actually seems cool. Like y'all actually seem like you're making it, you're saying you know God, but I don't know if I trust that. So let me go get to know him for myself. I was like curious and inquisitive, and that led me to a place where I wanted to get baptized. Where I was just like, put me in the water. Now I know what baptism means. Put me in the water. So that's really how I got to the place, through seeing other people not really represent God the way that I kind of thought should be the case. It gave me curiosity. And so I never really dealt with church hurt in the traditional way, because a lot of times people go to church and then like the pastor does something that's disrespectful to them, or people, you know, chastise them, or, you know, they call them out and stuff. And don't get me wrong, I was called out at that church, but I remember as a result of that, I said, ain't no way that's the Lord. Like I remember I wasn't even really a Christian. I didn't know what that meant. I just would be like, if God is good and God is love, that's not it. I'm clocking T. So I wound up getting baptized, and that was like pretty much nothing. Like I got baptized and then the lifestyle continued, right? Now I'm in this abusive relationship. Pornography rears its ugly head again because I'm not sure how to get out. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to manage, you know, this anger. My mom's not really talking to me because she's in a bad marriage, and I'm like, girl, I can't help you with that right now. And I wasn't cheering competitively. And I just remember being like, you know, am I getting some flaking? Girl, I had to check the mirror. I said, I know this hair not flaking. But yeah, so basically at this point, after I get baptized, mind you, I didn't have like some encounter with God per se. I just was like, well, let me do the baptism, you know, put me in the water. So it wasn't like I really had a surrenderance of my heart, you know what I mean? I just remember feeling like, you know, I want to, let me take the steps that people seem to be taking. But yeah, I had always felt guilty about watching porn and stuff like that. And I wouldn't say that the guilt really changed. I honestly think after I got baptized, I just became the hypocritical, legalistic Christian that I had been surrounded by. And ultimately, the Bible says that bad company corrupts good character. So I was curious and I wanted to be the real representation and the real version, but I wound up becoming the person who is still having sex, but I'm judging other people on having sex. Like I just became like the people at that church that I was going to. And, you know, looking back, it was very much so cultish. Okay, it was. We're gonna put that out there. But yeah, so that was senior year, y'all. Senior year. And pretty much moving into college years, right? Now we're graduating high school, feeling a little bit better about life. I got a full ride to an HBCU, and it was weird because it felt like a success and it also felt like failure. I wanted to go to Princeton. I wasn't trying to go to no HBCU, no shade. Okay, I want to go to Princeton. And I got a full ride. I didn't have to spend any money. There was no financial, burden or whatever on me. But I remember feeling like this was great, but also boo, because this isn't what I wanted. And I felt like I failed because, So long story short, I moved to college. I'm still in this relationship and I'm going home to church, to this cultic church every week. Okay, because the people was checking. If you didn't go to church on Sunday, you missed a Sunday. They be, you know what I mean? Real judgy. And I was like, I don't want to be not going to church. Let me go. So I'm driving 2 hours because I had my car freshman year. 2 hours driving, okay, back and forth every week to go to church, and then have some man, some child, some young male be trying to put his hands on me. And I just said, this is crazy. This is crazy. And at that point, I had told my mom about what was going on with the relationship, and she just didn't have capacity to help. She was just like, maybe he's trying, maybe he's growing. Her pain projected onto me, and at this point she's thugging it out in a bad marriage, and she got me trying to thug it out in an abusive relationship. It got so bad, y'all. I was in the car with this guy and he was driving. I wanted him to take me home. He said no. I said, okay, well, take me home. He said no. Y'all, this man pulls up and starts driving 40 miles an hour in a residential neighborhood. Now, I don't know where you live. Depending on where you at in the neighborhood, it might be 15 miles per hour, might go up to 25. This neighborhood, I think, was 25 miles an hour. He's driving 40 miles an hour down a neighborhood road. Like, no, I'm not taking you home. I jump out the car. In shorts and flip-flops. My entire leg was gushing blood. Terrible. And I jumped out the car because I had a flash of anger and rage. And I pictured myself flipping the car, like grabbing the steering wheel and flipping the car. And this voice told me, if you do that, you're going to jail. Like, if you do that, you're gonna kill him and go to jail. And I remember just like thinking quickly, like, okay, I can't do that. Well, what can I do? Jumped out the car. And there were people coming outside like, oh my God, are you okay, blah, blah. And here he goes, she's fine. He's really assuaging these people to try to make it seem like I'm okay. And he wouldn't take me to the hospital. Long story short, y'all, I had 17 stitches down my leg, still have the scar. It's grown, it's shrunken a lot. It's a lot better now, but crazy. Once again, y'all, find help. Find help. If you know somebody, be the help, okay? So as we continue, I go to college, like I told you guys about. I'm in college at this point, coming home, and this is what I'm coming home to. I said, oh, we need a way out. We need a way out. And so it's one weekend. I'm coming home from school. This is like the day everything changed. I'm coming home on a Friday, and I remember at this time I had bought a Bible. I'm trying to read it. It's not making sense. It's not making sense. I think I had a couple verses in Matthew. You know what I mean? I just didn't know what I was reading. But I remember being like, Lord, I want to know you. Like, I remember having more of those like intimate conversations with God. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't understand what's happening. I'm at an HBCU around a bunch of Black people. That's the most Black people I had ever been around. And somehow I wasn't Black enough. So I was just like, Lord, I want to know you. You know what I mean? Can you be my friend? Because I feel alone. And I remember this is like the first time I think I recognized, like, when I had really surrendered and said, Lord, I'll do this with you. Like, I'll have this relationship. And after that, this is the first time where I'm feeling like an urge not to go to church that weekend. Like, I was feeling like, don't go home. Don't go see this guy. Screw what he's telling you. Just stay at school. But I just didn't understand that voice. I didn't understand why it was telling me not to go. I just was confused. So long story short, I wind up going to see him. And on this day, something was just even worse. Like, something was off. And I go into the house. Mind you, came from some hustlers, okay? This guy. So the house locked from the inside. and outside. Like they had locks and chains and stuff on the door, like very afraid of the cops kind of people, like very, you know, involved in some illegal stuff. So it was like, I got over there and I really shouldn't have been over there ever. But the fact that I went over there this day, I had a little bit more clarity, and I was apprehensive because I already felt like something told me not to go. But I get there, and as he's talking, we're doing the same song and dance as normal. And I just had this moment like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Girl, leave, get out of here. And I start trying to leave, and he's like, you can't leave. No, like, where are you trying to go? And I'm like, I'm leaving. And he's like, no, you're not. And he proceeds to wail on the girl, and he's picking me up and throwing me down and picking me up and throwing me down. At this point, I already have like a bum knee, you know what I mean? I'm not really in the best shape because I stopped cheering and now I'm in college, you know what I mean? I was in good shape, but I had asthma. Like, I just was not prepared. And I'm obviously fighting this guy. And I remember, guys, this, I kid you not, I lean forward and I look at his eyes and I'm like, let go of me. Like, why are you doing this? The white in his eyes went away. Like, his entire eyeball was black. Both of them, like the color of my shirt. And I remember being like, what is going on? Like, I got so freaked out. And if you guys have like, obviously like probably heard of like shaken baby syndrome, he's just started to shake me, like violently shake me. My neck, I was like, what are you doing? Like, he just started to like, was obviously looking back, he was like being possessed, honestly, I think. And I remember praying. I said, Jesus, I don't know. I really don't know what to say right now. And I'm talking to the Lord in my head. I said, I don't know what to say right now, but like, if you get me out of this situation, I will praise you. I will give you my life. I will give you every day of my life. You will have me for eternity. Like, if you get me out of this house, I promise. Like, I was like, Lord, please. I don't know if I'm saying it right. As he's shaking me and I'm like losing consciousness, right? And my dad, some years previously, had taught me this self-defense move. And it came to my recollection. I used it. I caused the guy to faint. I found keys in the next 5 or 6 minutes to get out of the house and unlock all the doors, unlock all the locks. I left and I never looked back. And that was the day that I really came to Christ. And from there, of course, you know, all the things, right? Most Christians go through. I would say I had a real epiphany. I started reading the Bible and it just made sense. I read about Jesus going to Calvary, wailed. I felt the weight of my sin. I was like, wow. Like, I literally felt like this is something crazy. Like, I have a clarity I never had. I have this discernment I never had. Obviously, the Holy Spirit was working on me. But yeah, I really surrendered my life to Christ. And of course, that was followed by a season of hyper fixation, and I kind of got a little judgmental, right? Because now I'm like looking at everybody else like, how are y'all not saved? Huh? I'm just like, y'all don't know what the Lord did for you? Jesus died for you. Like, are you kidding me? And no compassion, right? All fire and brimstone, no love and compassion and empathy. Not recognizing like, they're where I was, you know? Then I went through a season of consecration where I just looked back over my life and I was like, wow, the Lord has done so much for me. I'm just filthy rags. And I studied abroad in Thailand for 4 months, shaved my head, you know, was bald. You guys know I had short hair, but I cut all the hair off. Really got to know the Lord, healed through a lot of the abuse, and forgave my mom, all the stuff, really good stuff. Found a new church, obviously. Couldn't go back to the other one, child. And yeah, I spent 5 years single in surrenderance. And I basically was like, Lord, I've been single for a while. It's been at the 3-year mark. I said, I've been single for 3 years, Lord. Where he at? Where my new man at? And the Lord was like, okay, well, could you do 3 times 3 years? And I said, whoa, okay, you're right. So not long after that, I actually met Clyde. But yeah, if you're curious about Clyde and our whole relationship, There's a playlist for it. But yes, y'all, if I had to say where I'm at now, okay? Full life servitude to Jesus Christ, all right? Surrendered, all right? I went through the different seasons, but now I let the Lord use me, try my best to let him use me and not quench the Holy Spirit. I live by the word, as you guys see. I've put that in the videos and stuff because ultimately, in the beginning was the word, and the word was God, okay? And Jesus Christ is the living word, and the Bible is the word. Like, it's just, you gotta live by the scriptures. You can't just be out here doing whatever. You gotta live by the word. And yeah, you know, since being really devoted to Christ, if you guys have been on the channel, you know I talked about my dad passing away, healed from my mommy issues, got in therapy. Oh, the whole thing with my mom, the gag is I found out she's a whole real narcissist. Crazy, right? So the Lord working on her, but yeah, real narcissist out here. And it really showed me that my perfectionism was a defense mechanism from just not feeling like I was valued. Whole deep story, that's another video, child. But yeah, walk in forgiveness and feels really good. And now I'm here, right? The joy of the Lord is my strength. And he really delivered me from that perfectionism, the anxiety that I had, the rage. Oh my goodness, that deep rage. That was something I had to work on in marriage, right? Not being triggered so much. And now we're just watching the Lord work. And with that, y'all, the twists are done. The twists are done and the testimony is complete. I am gonna take a little bit of this Donna's recipe gel on my hands and just kind of smooth it over, because it's not the super craziest hold when you have all this moisture. But yeah, I know that was really deep. Oh my goodness. I know that was really deep. And I know that I can probably come off a little bit comedic and I'm funny and silly, but the Lord has brought me a mighty long way. And just a reminder, Jesus saves sinners, okay? Every single day. And Jesus Christ died for us so that we might have an opportunity for eternal friendship and community and fellowship with God the Father in heaven. You're loved. You're loved. And I'm loved too. So yeah, y'all. That's it. Stay tuned for my results, okay? Because we're not going to end the video without the results. That's crazy work. But before I go, let's just pray, because some people are empathetic to the point where you're going to take on the weight of some of the things that I'm saying, and I don't want it to be negative weight. Prayerfully, my testimony can help you, and prayerfully, this prayer will help you. So, dear Heavenly Father God, in the mighty name of Jesus, I just come and say thank you. Thank you for giving me courage to share my testimony. And thank you for bringing me through so much. Thank you for the fact that there's no shame, no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. And Lord, I just thank you for this wonderful community that you've helped Clyde and I to build. Pray for those who listened, pray for those who watched, and that this message, this story will just demonstrate your goodness and your love. You did these things for me, and you can do these things for them. And I just say thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. So I'm gonna go let my hair dry, and I'll see you guys in the next clip for Takedown. Good morning, neighbors. The time has come for me to take these twists out, so let me get the bonnet off and get myself situated, and I'll be back for us to take down the first twist together. All right, let's go ahead and get down to business. First thing I'll say while I'm taking this out is my hair definitely does not feel moisturized the same way it does when I go in with a cream and finish it off with mousse. Just using the leave-in and the gel feels very different. This feels like a real blow-dried style, just nothing else going on. But look how quick that was. Oh, I miss the twist out days. This might be the end of my reign as the braid out challenger, braid out only girl, because this is just going really quick. Look at that. Ooh, we love it. It's giving the thick Cheetos. Y'all remember the thick Cheetos? It's giving those. It's giving those. Got nice. Ooh, Donna. Girl, Donna. It's got nice hold and shine. So anyway, y'all, I know that this is gonna be a long video because I'm pretty sure I talked for like an hour yesterday. So if you're still watching, thanks for kicking it. Hopefully you're enjoying, and hopefully you found this video valuable. Of course, it's twist and testimony, so we did the twist, we did the testimony, but we gotta show you the results, you know what I mean? So anyway, definitely drop in the comments, you know, your thoughts on this video. I know it's pretty long form. This is long form, okay? But yeah. Okay, hold on, we in the heat damage section, baby girl. What's it giving? Okay, heat damage. We're speaking life into the heat damage. You can see this is really the line of demarcation. It goes from dry Cheetos to a little bit more wet Cheeto, but hey, Cheeto nonetheless. So yes, y'all, let me go ahead, finish the rest of my head, stretch this head via voiceover, and I will be back for final thoughts. What's up, y'all? This is what the hair was giving after all of my twists were taken out, and it's giving twisted puff Cheetos just like we like it. Been a minute since a twist out, but the thing was giving honey. Now, I definitely forgot to show the stretching process, but baby, y'all got the testimony, and that was the important part. Num num, eat 'em up. Let's get into the twist out. Honey. Looking good. Looking good. You see the shine? And that's coming from a few places, right? We have it coming from the Donna's Recipe Gel. It just gives a nice shiny finish. Of course, it's coming from the Paul Mitchell Super Skinny Serum that I put over my hair while separating. And then you see some of this on the ends, especially because I finished my ends off with grease. So it's a little shine trifecta happening, but each of those products are not for shine, right? They have other primary purposes, but it's kind of cool that they all work together to give the dull high porosity girl a little shine, all right? So I guess let's get into my thoughts. I will be a little close for a second just so y'all can see. And now girl, back it up. Back it up. And jump. Now I'm feeling more comfortable doing braid outs, but the twist out, it just was fast, you know, fast to style, fast to take down. It was fast to stretch because I have a little bit of a better technique now. The hair looks great. I think it looks really great. And I like the little ringlets that you see. I really don't know. I don't know. So we'll see how it holds up, of course, but thank you guys so much for watching. I know this is a long video, a little documentary for y'all, but hopefully you enjoyed testimony and twist. Yeah, let me know what you guys think of the hair. Let me know what you guys think of the video down below, and I will see you in the next one.